Thank you so much for being here today in this session regarding the importance of urban forests for sustainable cities. It's very interesting because the previous session we were talking about, they were talking about trees and the distribution of trees in cities. And now we are trying to change the scale, no, in some way to go a little bit in another scale, in a higher scale, to understand why it's so important at the end, the urban forest for the cities. This session will be structured in three main parts. The first one, we will have three speakers when they will share their insights about three questions that I will share with you later. And we will do another very small break to introduce other three speakers. And then we will have a Q&A session open to all the attendees. Thank you so much for being here. I am Oscar Chamat. I am working for Metropolis, the Global Association of Metropolitan Areas and Big Cities. We are the meeting point for more than 140 cities around the world. And this session is especially relevant for us because we have been working lately in a very new document for us that is a part of a collection that is called the issue papers. It's a collection of documents that are addressed to highlight what the metropolitan areas and the metropolitan spaces are doing in different dimensions of the cities. In our most recent issue paper, that is titled Bringing Nature Back to the Metropolis for All, we analyze many topics, many ideas that are, all of them are in some way related with all the people that is sharing this session with us. But from all those ideas, I would like to highlight three of those ideas that for us, I think that is relevant and very pertinent to this session. The first one, the urban forest and the nature in the cities, it has a multidimensional, it is a multidimensional strategy that is not only related to air quality, to environmental issues, but also to increase the attractiveness of neighborhoods and municipalities to boost economic growth. So it's very interesting to bring this, to have trees in the cities in some way to boost economic growth. So I would think that this idea, I'm pretty sure that will appear later during the session. The second idea, the environmental justice, that as a consequence of the COVID has bring the relevance that has open spaces and green areas for the quality of life of everyone. It's not only a matter of economic, or it's not a luxury issue in cities, but it's a reality and a need for the people that is living in our metropolitan and urban spaces. And the third idea, that we are living in a time where inequalities are increasing, are deepening. In some way, they are already present before the COVID, but the COVID has bring it back to the agenda. So I would like to use this general overview of the importance for Metropolis, that urban forest. And I would like to introduce the first three speakers. I will be very strict on time. I have to be the bad guy here, and I will inform you that when 2 minutes have passed, and to tell you that you have one more minute. The first speaker is Sami Lakonen. He is the strategy director in Joensuu, Finland. He currently works as a strategic director of the Joensuu city. His master's degree consists in geography, economics, tourism, environment, and climate and future studies. Free time is mostly spent with outdoor and nature sports. Our second speaker is Stefan Falkenberg. I'm sorry for my Flemish is not very good. He managed different urban forests near Brussels. One of those is the Sonian Forest with more than 4,400 hectares, and it stretches over three Belgian regions. And our third speaker in this first block is Antoni Ferrero. He is Technical Management Office of Coordinator of the Metropolitan Area of Barcelona. He has a PhD in Forest Engineering from the Polytechnic University of Madrid, and extensive experience on planning, design, and management of open spaces and public green spaces, both from the private and public sector. Sami, Stefan, and Tony, I would like to invite you to share your first thoughts about three main questions. How would you describe the general relation of your city to forest in one sentence? That's tricky. What is the most important benefit of urban and peri-urban forests for your cities? Do you see that's also relevant, these benefits? And the third one, that will be the same for the second block. What is the vision of your city regarding urban forests in the future, and what do you realistically think will happen? Sami, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So good midday to everybody, and wishes from Joensuu city. Behind me, you can see a picture that is taken from a drone in the middle of the Joensuu city. So you can easily see that Joensuu is really a city with plenty of urban forests and larger forests also, but also big freshwater lake systems. So Joensuu is a city with 77,000 people. We are a small Nordic city in the middle of Arctic boreal forests. So probably it is not easy to compare us on bigger cities in global context. Almost everywhere in Joensuu we have free forest corridors to the real wilderness, starting half kilometer from the city center. Forests cover 80% of the total city area. And in Joensuu city administrative area, we have 2,200 forest hectares, 2.7 hectares per every resident, every people living in the city. Joensuu city has also own forests. We are a forest owner of close to 9,000 hectares, and the timber stock is 1.4 million cubic meters. So the forest owned by the city. Forests have many meanings for Joensuu. First, we come to economy, so income to the forest owners when they do loggings and sell timber stock. Industrial jobs from covering all the supply chain, from the cutting through logistics to the industrial processing, covering also production of forestry machines here in the Joensuu city. Second meaning of forests for Joensuu is education, science, and innovations. University of East Finland, located in our city, has a faculty of forestry. The headquarters of European Forestry Institute is located here, and we have also Natural Resources Institute of Finland located in the city. And we believe that, and we want it to be so, that Joensuu is offering forest know-how and scientific-based information to deal with the forests by a sustainable and future-oriented way. Then forests and urban forests are, of course, a source of physical and mental health and happiness for our citizens, not only people living in the Joensuu, but also tourists arriving to Finland and North Karelia region. Outdoor sports is booming at the moment because of the corona situation. So walking in the forests, observing, just being in the forests, picking berries, mushrooms, biking, running, orienteering, cross-country skiing, whatever, just name it. Forests offer endless possibilities of joy. And urban forests and forests.
Sami, I have to be the bad guy. I'm sorry. You have 10 seconds more to wrap up, and then we continue with the next speaker. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Then I will stop now.
Sorry, Tammy. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Stefan. I think that from Brussels. I think that he has some problems. Stefan, are you there? Stefan? Okay. Let's move to our third speaker, and we wait for Stefan. Anthony, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me to this event. As requested, I will try to answer the questions proposed by the organization in a couple of minutes. Well, later in the debate, perhaps we will have the opportunity to complement our presentation. You asked me a sentence that could define the situation of the urban forests and cities now and in the future. Well, I have a simple sentence. Our metropolitan cities and their associated infrastructures are expanding, but the presence of urban forests between them is increasing every day. That is a hope, but I think is a reality also, because day by day the society is more conscientious of the importance of urban forest. I will start with a short description of the Barcelona metropolitan area. Barcelona metropolitan area covers an area of 636 square kilometers with more than 3 million people. Open spaces occupy more than half of this territory. Many of these spaces coincide with important landforms, rivers, streams, mountains, massive, or beaches. This set of spaces is complemented by green spaces of more urban nature, such as streets, squares, and by myriad of small green fragmented interstitial spaces. This whole set of heterogeneous spaces creates an interconnected green infrastructure that provides the metropolis with a wide range of ecological, social, cultural, and economic ecoservices. The approach envisioned by the Barcelona metropolitan area seeks to reinforce the interconnection of the spaces that make up our green infrastructure, ensuring biodiversity and the functioning of ecological processes, maximizing ecosystem services, and regulating disturbances. In general, the management of forest areas and natural parks outside the cities is carried out through consortiums between local and regional administrations. Here, the property of the land is mostly fractioned and private, and low profit in terms of the production. In the future, I think, nowadays we can say that urban forests are two words that could be considered as oxymoron, two contradictory words. And in some cases, I think it is. But in our opinion, there are not if we open the definition, widen the concept, and considering urban forest as the whole ensemble itself, which includes cities, infrastructures, and forest, in a concept that is very close to the green infrastructure. Our vision of the future is to blur the borders between the urban and the natural, naturalizing cities and connecting them to open spaces, managing the open spaces to maximize ecosystem services. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Beyond their boundaries. No? Well, finally, by guaranteeing the ecological functions of urban forests, we also guarantee the ecosystem services and ensure benefits for the people's health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonio. I'm so sorry to be the bad guy, but this is what the organizers request me.
Thank you.
Stefano, I don't know if you are there. If not, we will wait for him. We can move to the second block of speakers with the same questions, with the same challenging questions, especially the one that is related, for at least for me, the general relation to your city to forest in one sentence. That's very tricky. Our third block is Mr. Tong from the Guangzhou city. He is the director of, Mr. Tong from Fuzhou city. He is the director of forestry administration, and he is responsible for the cultivation, protection, and management of forest resources, as well as the development of the forest industry, urban forest construction. The second speaker is Pierfrancesco Maran, Deputy Mayor for Urban Planning, Green Areas, and Agriculture from the Municipality of Milan. Mr. Maran is working on the regeneration of 7 abandoned railway stations in Milan, which is one of the most important urban projects in Europe, in addition to the development of green and rural areas in the city. And our third speaker, he comes from Sao Paulo. We have 3 continents here. Rodrigo Ravena, he is Chief of Staff and former Secretary of the Secretary of Green and Environmental Environment of Sao Paulo in Brazil. He is graduated in law and economics. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Tong, are you there? No, not there. It's not online. Okay, let's move to our second speaker, Mr. Maran from Milan. Nice to have you here. The floor is yours. And the time is also running.
Of course. Thank you. Well, first, for us to talk about urban forest is a new theme. I'd say 5-7 years ago, we thought it would be crazy to talk about urban reforestation inside the city. While actually, we think that with the problems connected with climate change, with the temperature of the cities, with our idea of development of our city, it is fundamental. It was fundamental before pandemic, and now it's more important than before because we learned how important it is to have green areas inside the city. That is why in our plan, we imagine we will open 20 new parks inside the city of Milan till 2030. And we are looking for embracing the city with a park around Milan. Actually, we have a northern part of the city and a southern part of Milan. We imagine that it will become a united park that will hug the city of Milan. Connected to those projects, we found a new initiatives that is both institutional and both of citizens and private companies to finance the reforestation of Milan. It was a project we called the Forestry. It is projected by the city administration. We have the help of some important architects like Stefano Boeri, that was part of the original ideas. Actually, in the metropolitan area, we count more or less 5.5 million of trees, and we plan to plant 3 million of new trees till 2030. That is a very risky also plan because, of course, somebody say you will not reach the result. It is important not just for the results, but because it is part of our policies and because citizens are participating to the plan. For example, this Christmas, more or less, we had €500,000 of donations by citizens of Milan to plant new trees. That is why in this week, we will plant 20,000 new trees financed by citizens. Of course, we need also public, and we save also public resources for reforestation. But the fact that citizens are participating in the plan is much important because awareness is decisive to obtain a result in projects like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francesco. You left for 8 seconds for the next round. You still have 8 seconds more for the next round. So okay. Good to hear that. Our last speaker, last but not least, Rodrigo from Sao Paulo. Welcome to the floor. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everybody. Almost everything we are doing here, everybody is doing. And the importance of forests in urban areas, mainly in cities in developed countries like Sao Paulo, is trees and forests are life. When we produce water, life quality, and can bring a better city to our citizens. That's the main reason we are trying to, we create a municipal urban afforestation plan that brings together the governance and participation of the population in the ways we are trying to reforest the city. São Paulo has 48% of his municipal area with some kind of green, but we are trying to convert all these areas in Atlantic forests, and we have to have the participation of the population. So we start this plan to involve everybody and have a more cohesive integration, a more integrated activity in planting to conserve the trees and to make the trees grow. And besides that, we are trying to substitute, to manage, to change the old trees to new trees. And regarding the other speaker in the initial panel, we're trying to focus in species and try to create mosaics of units of permanent protection and try to spread out the green all over the city. I think the main part of trying to build a greener São Paulo is to involve population. We have I think all over the world, people didn't like much trees. Here they call the tree dirts the city, and we are trying to involve the people that trees is the best value thing that someone can have. It increase the value of your property and it increase your quality of life. So we are really engaged in put this plan to work and get São Paulo greener, and in a way that we develop and protect our biodiversity and using Atlantic forest species to connect with the two areas between São Paulo, that's the part of the coast, and the interior, that we are in the middle, and then we are trying to compose a corridor of Atlantic forests. That's okay. That's done.
Obrigado.
De nada.
I don't know if one of the speakers that we were missing, Stefano or Mr. Tong, are you there? If so, if not, we can go to the Q&A questions. Before going to the Q&A, I just want to inform you to all the attendees that we are having our colleague, Gabriela, who is doing a graphic recording of this session that is very interesting, and that will be shared by the organizers at the end of the session. Coming back to the Q&A, and now we have still time. Please feel free to ask to make your questions and share with us. I would like to know something very common that appears in all your participation, in all your sessions, is the citizen engagement during all this. I think that is, for me personally, it was innovative, a new way to understand trees. That is, trees is not only trees, but it's an opportunity to engage the city community in developing all this. So feel free. I don't know who wants to start with this. Rodrigo?
Yeah, that's a very important point. You have to have people looking to trees are living beings and important to his own life. So we are trying here in São Paulo to involve wherever we are planting, wherever. We are asking the community in the between of the areas we are trying to reforest or manage. So we have to have people doing part of the plantations. It's not only a public service. It's not only the city mayor doing something to make greener the city. It's the citizen will that we plant a tree near his house. So if you don't have that, we cannot do a greener city, because people tend to vandalize the tree that he doesn't want.
Anyone? Anthony?
Well, here in Barcelona, we have wide tradition, in the participation process, and I think it's very important that citizens are engagement with the city and the vegetation and the forest in particular. But for me, is a very important thing to give to the population the clear explanation. Sometimes the politicians and the other people from the civil society explain the things not in the technical way, is only in the populism. And I think it's very important to produce some publications, some magazines, etc., and in the networks, of course, and the clear explanation is a key question. And after that, I think it's very important that the civil society organizes itself, in order to be more power in the dialogue with the technicians and the politicians.
You're on mute.
No, please, Francesco, feel free.
Oh, yes. Well, first, I'd say that it is never easy, because there is also the opposite of what Anthony Ferrero was saying now. For example, we plant 20,000 new trees. Okay, but I don't trust you. It's not true. Yeah, but it is. They are there. Yes, but it's not true, or they are too small. So there is also always even the other side, that many citizens they don't have trust for institutions generally. Probably they also have some good motivation not to trust institution in generally speaking, and in this specific period. But it is always hard to do that. During the pandemic, it's always harder, because, for example, we had a plan this winter to involve schools in planting trees, but you can't, because they have to stay home. So an important thing we are making is to work with the private companies to finance. Second, okay, planting new trees, but maintenance is even more important, and it's always a problem. For example, if we have the plan to create 20 new parks, I'm really worried on the fact that with the 20 new parks, we will double the cost of the city maintenance for green, and they don't have this money. So that is why they are connected. I am in charge both of green and of city planning. The fact if you build new houses, a new area of the city, you have to maintain that park for 10 years. It's decisive for us, because if not, I can't pay the new park, or we have a lower level park. So the question of how we maintain the green is decisive. In some areas of Milan, we are not doing that with the green global service we have, but with citizens association. And it is very important, because especially in difficult areas, for example, we have an area of Milan where we had problems of drugs till a few months ago. And we involve a citizen association. We paid them to do that. And they do better than what we do with in the normal level, because there is more participation on the change of this area. So if we do it together, we have better results, in my opinion.
We do it together. Yes, please, Sami, I will going to ask you something about that. Please, people, feel free, please.
Yes, in Joensuu City, our forest management is based on policy guidelines at the moment. Guidelines are covering years 2018 and 2028, so 10 years decade. It is a long-term action plan that covers all aspects of the forest and usage of forests. In Joensuu City, you just can't cut a tree just like that in a city area. First, you must put a sign that tells to people living in that area that actions are considered to this tree, and then the citizen can call to city forestry department and ask what is going on with this tree. In Joensuu, we believe that our citizens are more happy if they can see trees, at least one tree from their home window. So every tree matters. It is not only a question of forests around the city or forest corridors. Every tree matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Sami. Now we have Mr. Tong from Fuzhou. Happy to see you and welcome to the floor. You have 3 minutes. I will inform you when you have already to. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry for not wishing you.
Thank you, Chairperson, for providing us with such a great platform to talk about the connections between urban environment and the forests. I've listened to your presentations attentively, which were thought-provoking. We can see the relationship of coexistence between urban environment and forestry. They feed back into each other and they help each other to grow stronger. It is not just a perception from the official government, it is also common awareness from the general public. I think it's vital to have that common understanding. We can see there are many benefits brought about by urban forests. In a word, there are 3 benefits. First, it guarantees sustainable development of cities. Forests are part of the most vital elements of urban environment. Without the urban forests, we can say that the ecological system existing in our urban environment would be lost. So urban forests provide a pillar of sustainable development for cities. In other words, when we try to build a city, we need urban forests. The second benefit is that it helps to create a better business environment. It helps to enhance your competitiveness of a certain city. So more people would love to come to your city, to live in your city, and to find jobs in your city. If you look at my city, Fuzhou, in the past 5 years, we have really proactively promoted the building of urban forestry. So the business environment index for our city jumped from 40th place to 28th place. And in terms of the visiting numbers into our city, from 2015, we only had 48 million tourists in our city. And in 2018 and 19, we had over 90 million tourists in our city. So it has really become a business card of our city. The third benefit is that the trees and urban forests provide recreational purposes for our citizens. In recent years, we step up our game in terms of building lines of trees along the roadside, the avenues in our city. So it's much easier, much accessible to our citizens when they want to enjoy some shady environment, some green shades. So citizens have given us feedback regarding their increased satisfactory levels of the urban environment. More and more are mobilized and get involved in the protection of the urban forestry environment and animals living in the urban environment. The satisfactory level reached over 98%. Based on the respondents we've interviewed. So it was a relatively high satisfactory score. So it's not just about the coverage of trees in our urban environment. We are also seeing positive correlation of economic development.
Mr. Tong, time is coming to the end.
The connection between forests and urbans, they coexist together, they co-develop with each other, and they mutually complement each other. It's a living environment, ecological system. It's the foundation of our city. It's an important pillar of our city to develop. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tong. It's very helpful. And that's very curious because when I was planning, when I was listening to all of you, It's very curious that it doesn't matter where are you based, but there is something common in all your presentation, at least for me, is the role that the tree has in the people. I mean, it's something like a right, no? Rodrigo says that, Osami said, every tree matters, no? That's very, paradoxically, it's very innovative and radical to think in that way, that we are talking about that every tree matters. And I would like to have this perspective, very optimistic perspective.
I fully agree with you. It's a part of our ecosystem in urban environment.
That's a critical part of the ecosystem, the urban environment. But I would like to go a little bit further and many of you mentioned the word happiness. Happy, it makes people happy, but we are talking about urban forest. I mean, what is the matter with happiness here? How do you measure? I mean, Mr. Tong mentioned how the trees are now the new business cards. That's very innovative also perspective to say, okay, I have the tree, but it's very similar than Sami mentioned. This is a tourist issue. Let's talk about this, no? About happiness. How do you measure how happy? What is your reflection? How can we go to the earth and share how this experience have you realized? But also, and very important, these benefits of the urban forest, because we can also talk about green gentrification. That is also important, no? What is happening on this? Please, who wants to start? Sami, the floor is yours.
Okay, last week it was in the news that Finland seems to be again the most happiest country in the world. I am always asking myself that how can this be possible? But I think that the answer is that probably the happiness of the Finns has something to do with the forests and our close, deep relation during hundreds of years with the forest. So it is very difficult to evaluate or measure the happiness, but obviously forests have something to do with it.
Yeah, happiness obviously depends on the person. You know? I think there are some persons that trees and urban forest makes them very, very, very happy. Other ones maybe not. But I think that there are the general benefits of the urban forest in the cities that are clear. You know? For example, relating to the safety, relating to the landscape, relating to the life quality. But the concept of happiness, I think it depends more than the kind of person you are.
Okay, so 几句了。
May I take the floor?
Please.
请说吧. Well, many citizens told us their happiness is very simple. If they want to see something green when they open their window, and if they can enter into a park when they get out of their house, and if they can walk in a forest, that is their happiness.
Happiness seems to be very easy and simple, no? But in cities like Rio and in Sao Paulo, that Rodrigo said that the trees are making the city dirtier. How do you respond to them? Is the city dirty because you are happy in some way?
No, we are trying to convince people that trees can make you happier. That trees can, we are in the tropics, so that's very hot, and trees slows the temperature in 3 degrees in the canopy. So we are trying to convince people that trees are very good. You can be very, very happy along with a tree in front of your house. I have like 20 in the backgrounds of my house, and it's very nice. So we are trying to convince people we have to plan to make people understand the importance of the trees, because we came from a long history of taking trees off to build houses, taking trees out to build roads. And now we are trying to make people understand to bring trees back to the city makes a better city for everyone and a happier city. Just one example. We have more than 1,000 species of birds in São Paulo. And with the pandemic, people stays at home and starts to look into the trees and could see a lot of birds that we have in the city. And this kind of thing make people happy. And we are convinced that if we involve people, trees will live longer and we will have a happier and greener city.
I'm quite, I'm quite surprised it is a theme because if I see from my point of view, nobody asks about if he's not happy with new trees. They just say, let's do that, or why you have to cut sometimes a tree, not if it is wrong to plant new trees. If I can go in this direction, maybe the next level we have to face is the fact that they are used to have, for example, short green at the floor. So if you try to create some more natural conditions, they are surprised and they don't appreciate because it looks like it is not maintained. But I've never seen somebody saying, please don't plant a new tree.
Rodrigo, do you want to say something?
We do have people like that here. Please do not plant a tree in front of my house. We still have people like that here.
We should share some citizens.
Oh yes, please.
That's very curious, no? In some trees seems to be like a happiness, no? It's just a matter of person and regarding the people. I would like to some gray area is regarding finance. How do you invest? How do you explain to the community that instead of building new roads or investing in new traditional things, you are investing in maintenance and financing things that are making the city dirtier, but at the same time making the city more attractive for the rest of the citizens. Sami, I think that you are raising the hand.
Oh, about the costs. Well, I had to tell that in Joensuu it is easy because every year the forests owned by Joensuu City are growing roughly 50,000 cubic meters of timber, and the cuts we do are only 30,000 cubic meters. So we will also got money when the city sells us timber. So it is easy to tell citizens that we are using this money also to plant trees in the city center and take care of our city parks and so on. But this is too easy solution. I think the others, you must have other ways to explain the expenses.
Anyone? If not, I will share with you another question. Please, Anthony.
Well, taking advantage of this question, I'm going to introduce another concept. Before I said, one of our goals is to blur the borders between the urban and the natural spaces. No? And now I want you to add that the difference, to pay attention in the difference between the natural vegetation and the designed vegetation. No? Are very different. The designed vegetation is more associated to the urban spaces and the natural one is associated to the outside. No? And I think there is a need to balance this, the the methodology of the maintenance between these two spaces. No? I think we have to reduce the consume of resources in the designed vegetation, because look, in some cities, no, in the Mediterranean in particular, no, there are the green areas that consume a lot of water, a lot of resources, and produce the waste also, no? And that is, I think, is a problem. One of the criteria that that have to inspire the designs is the reduce this cost. And on the other hand, in the outside spaces, we need the management. We need to manage these spaces, because if not, in the Mediterranean again, we have a lot of problems. For example, the forest fires and so on. And we need to increase the management in the outside spaces and to reduce the cost of resources within the cities.
It seems that we have to move to the smart forest in some way, no? To create new and innovative way to reduce the cost of maintenance, and not only directly on the maintenance, the daily maintenance. I think that is also relevant. Related to this, using what you say, Anthony, regarding the blurring and in some way merging the urban and the rural, there are some questions on the chat regarding the relation with other stakeholders. Antonio, in some moment you mentioned the relation local and regional. Pierre Francesco, I think that you mentioned something with private. I would like to know this kind of multi-level coordination, multi-level governance, the metropolitan scale, all these issues that are crucial. I mean, it's not on the matter of putting trees on my street. It's a matter of real coordination across the scale of government. Who wants to start with this? There was a direct question for you, Francesco, actually. That was from Milano also, but feel free.
First, I'm both in charge of green areas and city planning. Usually they are divided because city planning should be more important. Our idea is that it is always something that it's connected to territory, so they have to stay together. And it is also a way to convince the housing investor, for example, to finance the green, both for maintenance and both for investments. That is why we are raising resources for green, because they have both rules and a push to be part of this change. Of course, the cooperation at the different institutional level, it's always hard. In Italy, we have the national government, the regional level, the metropolitan area, the city level. At the national level, we have many funds from 1 or 2 years to urban reforestation. They give money, but it doesn't arrive still, so we are waiting for that. I think that the biggest problem is to create a planning, because, okay, for example, actually in Milan, we plant more or less 3-4 times more trees than 5 years ago. Fantastic. But it's not easy to buy trees to plant, for example. So if we want to plant more trees, we have to start before preparing the fact that somebody start to produce new trees somewhere, because the trees we plant in Milan should be 5-6 years old, not 1 year old. So we need to plan the fact that we are changing our city. It's not, I say it's like an industrial policy, not just a green policy.
Mr. Tong?
这是我们中国的这个
In China, the development of urban forest, well, the planning should certainly go first. The planning first. So So the development of urban forest that goes hand in hand with the planning. Well, in Guangzhou, for example, in the seaside areas, we have a slogan, forest first, city second. This is a very interesting concept. The planning of our city is actually sponsored or endorsed by the City Planning Administration of China. Well, in our practice, indeed, we develop our forest first and then we develop our city. Such projects, we think, are very good. Indeed, we have to be the developer or the builder of a forest first and then the developer of a city. Indeed, so in this sense, planning is very important. Therefore, the planning has to be in line with the ecological system of the city.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tong. I see that Mr. Stefano from Brussels is online. I would like to give you to all of you 1 more minute before Stefano, if he's appeared, to share your last idea regarding this session. If you have something to add, to say, okay, I have to say that, please, this is the moment. I will start with Anthony, who is the first on my screen. If you want to 1 minute of fame at this end of the session.
Yeah, well, to summarize these reflections,
1 minute.
I think that it's very important to think a little bit more about the concept of the urban forest. For me, the urban forest is, I explained it, is the whole group, no, including the urban and peri-urban and the natural areas outside the cities, no, and we have to learn from the outside the cities, from the forest, the natural forest, and this learning to be applied inside the cities, and on the other hand, to organize around the natural forest in order to do these forests more resilient and more adapted near to the cities.
Thank you, Anthony. Sami, you are the next on my screen.
Okay, I think one issue we have to consider is that what kind of long-term effects this coronavirus probably could have. What has happened is that people living in the regions with low population density, we have managed to continue our life pretty much normally, but unfortunately in bigger cities, people must have stayed indoors, and this means that your neighborhood environments like parks and urban forests are even more and more important. And will it be in the future that city forests and parks are substituting long distance tourism and traveling? And if it will be like this, the future, then the forests should be part of the city's accounting. We must make the forest positive sides visible also in money terms. Thank you.
Rodrigo?
I'd like to say that planning is the key. Involving people is the second important path. And in spite of we don't have none of federal government support, Sao Paulo is doing what we have to do to keep the city green and go alongside people like you that are doing the best you can to preserve the planet. So I have to say that we are doing the opposite way that our federal government, and we are trying to reach everyone to help us to get ideas. I just get 3 or 4 that I'm including in my greener plan, and that's it.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Pier Francesco.
I say that city is not just one issue. my idea is that we have to we have many reforms in a city generally and post-pandemic. So we have reforestation, we are increasing public space, we are increasing cycle lanes, we have to invest on public transport. I think that all those policies go in the same direction. And we have to push on all those results because they help the awareness of citizens and especially of young people that something is happening. Then the difficulty is that probably we have the idea that we have to change everything in few years because of climate change. We have to do that with this hurry, but we don't have to be on a hurry because this change is always should be planned, as Rodrigo Ravena was saying before. Yeah, so you have to give also time to change.
Give time to change, Mr. Tong.
我讲两句话。
Two phrases. Well, the coexistence of the city and the urban forests should certainly involve the citizens. Well, only by doing that could we promote the urban forest. Secondly, cities do not only provide good ecological systems for the citizens, but it could also promote the citizens to build a very good living or working paradigms.
Thank you, Mr. Tong. We still have 3 minutes that I would like to use to try to kind of do some kind of personal wrap up. Is regarding the correlation between trees and happiness, between trees and people, and between trees and citizen participation, but also to highlight that the urban forest is a matter that matters for cities. That is critical. It doesn't matter the local or regional scale that you are moving. Is critical for the city, but not only for health reasons, but also for happiness, as Sami mentioned, but also as economical growth, as Mr. Tong mentioned. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot leave here without saying to Gabriela, who is producing while we were talking, this graphic resume, this graphic briefing on all this, that I'm pretty sure the organizer will be shared with you, with other participants. And I have to apologize with all the participants. I have more than 40 requests through the chat. I'm so sorry to not cover all of them. And thank you so much for being here, and let's put more trees on in our cities. Thank you so much for your time. And please don't forget, the organizer will kill me if I don't say that you will have the opportunity to go to a virtual tour to the Bond Forest in Germany if you stay here too. Okay, thank you so much, and hope to see you again in virtual or physical mode.
Okay, hi.
Bye-bye.
Bye.